Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson Football Channel for a very highly requested video. You guys know 6 Things We Learn is the series here on the George Benson Football Channel. We do it after every single Chelsea game. Sometimes it's a little late, sometimes it's straight after the game. And if you want to see every single one for next season, why haven't you hit the subscribe button yet? It's free to do so. Hit the button, turn on the bell notifications, and then you never miss seeing my mug on your screen talking about our favourite football club. Today, I thought I would do 6 things we learned from Frank Lampard's debut season as Chelsea manager. If you didn't know, Chelsea Football Club are releasing a 6-part documentary series online today, basically about the homecoming of Super Frank. We know that he's our greatest ever player. He's our top goal scorer of all time. He comes back as Chelsea manager, transfer ban. Again, another kerfuffle at the end of last season with sacking a manager despite a Europa League win. Well, Maurizio Sarri kind of left. It was all a little bit up in the air, to be honest. But Frank walks in through the door. Not only is this YouTube channel born, it's an exciting time for Chelsea fans. And we've learned a lot this season about not only the squad of players that we have, about the young players that we have, but also about Frank Lampard and Roman Abramovich's vision for our club moving forward. So without any further ado, I'm going to itch my forehead because I'm a little bit hot in my bedroom. I don't know if I tell you guys that enough, to be honest. Box number 1, and I've given it a green for Frank Lampard's ability to be very adaptable with his tactics, depending on his opponents. Within the games, I think this season, our substitutions have been often very good. Players have been able to come on despite having a lot of injuries. Players have been able to come on and make a difference. And I think the way that we've seen, particularly in some of the big games this season, yes, we beat United once, but lost the other 3 matches. But against the big teams, Frank Lampard, despite being a very young manager, has been very, very good at adapting the formations, adapting Chelsea's tactics to play at our very best against the opponents in hand. Now, of course, just because it's a green box, it doesn't mean that Frank gets it right every single time, but we've got to remember there have been a lot of variables that haven't really necessarily been within Frank Lampard's control this season. So I think all in all, the fact that Frank isn't afraid to change things, he's not afraid to drop some of the bigger personalities and some of the bigger names in the dressing room. He likes to pick players off of merit. He likes to pick players based off of the opposition, which in modern day football is a massive thing that every single manager, particularly in the Premier League, and of course, we're the biggest club in London, so we play in Europe's elite competition, the Champions League, despite getting dismantled by Bayern Munich, which, let's just be honest, who isn't getting dismantled by Bayern Munich at this point? Chelsea have looked very good this season, pretty solid at times. Other frailties, which I think you can already see on the screen, there's a red box at the end that we will finish on as this video progresses. But moving into box number 2, it's a yellow box, and it kind of relates to box number 1, because what is Frank Lampard going to do now that we've brought in all of these attacking players? We know defence has been the area of the field where we've struggled. We've also seen this season that when we play with 3 at the back with wing-backs, we look pretty solid. But despite that, we've brought in a lot of attacking players. There's also another geezer who goes by the name of Kai Havertz, who's banging on the door for a move as well, just to add even more of an attacking impetus to the Chelsea squad. What are we going to do next season? Does Frank even know at the moment how he intends on fitting in all of these new players? Because we have chopped and changed things so much this season. So even though it's a good thing that we can adapt depending on our opposition or depending on the playing personnel available, does Frank Lampard know how he wants his Chelsea team to line up next season? That is the question that I would love to hear you guys answer in the comments down below. I think this season, particularly against the big teams, because Frank knows that the balance of this team is very heavily attack-minded with the press, and just pretty much the quality of the attacking players are much better as well. With that balance being so heavy towards the attack, unless the defensive reinforcements that we desperately need come in this summer, how is Frank going to balance it for next season? It's one of the biggest questions that I've got at the moment. I'd love to know what you guys think about that in the comments down below. But as always, with the 6 things we learn, I would love for you guys to go in on the comments and write out as many as you can for the 6 things that we learn. What would your 6 things be? What colour would the boxes be? And I'm going to flash a couple up on the screen now that if you guys want to pause and read, that some of the GBFC Discord server members have actually sent in to me. So thank you very much for all of that. we move into box number 3, and again, it's a green one. We've got to remember, guys, Chelsea finished in the top 4. We got to an FA Cup final. We got to the Champions League last 16 out of a very difficult group. And at the same time, throughout all of this, we managed to do something that Chelsea fans and Roman Abramovich and the entire football club have been wishing for a very long time. And that is seeing youth products from the academy rise up into the first team, make names for themselves, sell shirts in the megastore and all over the world. Players, for example, like Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham, Reece James, Billy Gilmore, Hudson-Odoi obviously, and Ruben Brokin mainly last season, but players like this that have been at Chelsea Football Club their entire lives, who, for fans like myself, and I guess fans like you guys as well, we're massive Chelsea fans, and when we see players who understand the DNA of our football club, it gives us so much energy and excitement to see them on the field, to understand the project at Chelsea has not just been about spending millions of pounds on the best players to win Chelsea trophies. It's about building a club that has an identity, that has roots that go deeper than what we see on the pitch, be it home or be it away or somewhere in Europe. Chelsea Football Club have been working tirelessly with their academy now for many years. Not only that, but Jody Morris, who's actually come up with some of these boys, managing in the academies alongside Frank Lampard on the touchline. You can see the moments of pride when Mason Mount scores his first Stamford Bridge goal at home to Leicester City a year ago. You see what it means to Frank. You see what it means to Jody Morris. All of the connections that have been built this season between myself, between you guys, between us and the club, a lot of that is down to the positivity and the excitement that comes from seeing players wearing the Chelsea badge who have always wanted this opportunity and that have grabbed it by the horns and rode with it. So probably the biggest thing for me this season, it's box number 3, the Chelsea youth players shining, rising up, becoming men in the Chelsea shirt. It's something that's been very exciting to witness, and we move into box number 4. Now there are some people who just have this idea that because Frank Lampard's a young manager who's not won anything yet, he's not going to be able to bring in the biggest players. He's not going to be able to get the big names in. Like, you're not going to compete with City and Liverpool. What does Hakim Ziyech have to say about that one? What does Timo Werner have to say about that one? And, you know, that man who still hasn't signed, but we keep rabbiting on about him 24/7, Kai Havertz as well. He wants to play under Frank Lampard. We've seen the comparisons between your Havertzes, your Balaks, also Frank Lampard as well. A goal-scoring midfielder is exactly what Kai Havertz is hopefully going to be in a blue shirt. The greatest thing that I've seen with all of the players that Chelsea have currently signed, particularly Ziyech and Werner, the key thing when they've done their interviews after just signing for Chelsea is the influence that having Frank Lampard as the manager had on their decision. Now, rival clubs and even some Chelsea fans that doubt Super Frank can say all they want about whether or not Frank Lampard is going to be a good Chelsea manager, but what he did as a player has enabled him to build this incredible aura about what he brings to this club. And these players that are coming in, they're looking into what Frank has done and what Frank means to Chelsea and what Frank's vision is for the future. And they're looking at this and thinking, blimey, this is a project that isn't just going to be like 2 years here, we might win a trophy and then I'll bugger off to Barcelona. Players are looking at Chelsea as a destination that they want to really go and excel with their careers and move forward, progress, develop. All of these things, I think Frank is having a huge say and is a massive influence on these players joining. We also know that Frank Lampard has got his eyes on some other players, particularly Ben Chilwell, Declan Rice. We've even got Jimenez from Atletico Madrid, who's even come out and said in an interview in Spanish that it was his dream to play alongside Frank Lampard, and you just know that these little hints are things that the team at Chelsea are going to see, and maybe Jimenez could be one of those players we go for. Frank Lampard has got so much pulling power that at this rate, even though we've got 55 million bloody players on loan, Chelsea could build a squad of world-class or talented footballers just based off of the fact that Super Frank is our bloody manager, and it's absolutely brilliant to see. Box number 5. Moving forward, it wouldn't be the end of the season, Frank Lampard's 6 Things We Learnt review, without mentioning that little transfer ban that we had. And in January, when everything was just a little bit confusing, we thought, finally, the transfer ban's been uplifted. Chelsea get on the right side of a little bit of luck in Europe. It's a rare thing. But at this moment in time, I'm there in January thinking, no one's coming through the door. Surely Frank has been banging on that door saying we need some players, we need reinforcements, we need to make sure we get this top four so that next summer when the big boys are knocking, we can answer and say, hello mate, Champions League football, you want a trip to Turin instead of a trip to flipping, I don't know, somewhere else in Eastern Europe that's a little bit too far on a Europa League night. Nothing against Eastern Europe, by the way. I'm just saying Champions League trips are just ever so slightly more entertaining for the big players, you know what I mean? So considering that transfer ban, considering we then didn't go and spend any money in January, the fact that Frank Lampard has exceeded the expectations of the majority of the footballing world, or the predictions of the majority of the footballing world this season, is a credit to him. It's a credit to the job that he's done with the players that he's had available. It's not only that, it's not just the transfer ban, it's the loss of Eden Hazard. The injuries this season to key players at big times, such as N'Golo Kante, Christian Pulisic, you know. The ability that Frank has had to adapt, and we bring it back to box number one, to adapt, to change things, to use the players that he's had at his disposal, has been absolutely excellent. And I think that there weren't many Chelsea fans. I obviously did say in my Premier League predictions that we would finish fourth. There are a lot of Chelsea fans that doubted our chances this season. Yes, we conceded 54 bloody goals, and I will put box number 6 on the screen so that you guys can get prepared for my little rant about defending. But all in all, what we've achieved this season, it may have been trophyless, but I think it was a really good show. And again, even Bayern Munich, we didn't concede 8 like Barcelona did, we only conceded 7. So if that doesn't prove that Super Frank knows, I don't know what does. Of course, I'm joking. We need to get better than conceding 7 goals. Moving in to the defence, that kind of all goes hand in hand. We've not been good defensively this season, and I bring it back to box number 2, where I'm like, what are we going to do with this attack-minded philosophy that Frank clearly wants to play with? We got to remember, Super Frank was an attacking midfielder. He was a goal-scoring midfielder, and if anyone thinks that a footballer isn't going to carry what he's learnt as a player into his managerial career, then the chances are you're probably going to be mistaken. It's a little bit of a naive thing to think, because Frank Lampard is that kind of player. So of course, Chelsea are going to push to play that kind of football. We also know, over the years, Roman Abramovich has wanted to see Chelsea teams go forward and attack. But we cannot concede 54 goals next season. I'm not going to sit here and scapegoat individual players, because I did a Chelsea player ratings video where I rated everybody out of 10. If you haven't seen that, I'll leave it as a card on the screen. But whatever happens next season, defensive reinforcements must come in. And if it isn't necessarily all of the players or the exact players that Frank Lampard wanted, a different strategy for defence has to come into play next season. There's been so many times this year where my head has been in my hands, it's been lackluster, it's been poor, and I think a lot of that, if we've said a lot of good things about Frank Lampard within this video, a lot of that is probably down to what's being coached, the way that the team's being structured when we transition from defence into attack. Very fortunately, we've got players like Mateo Kovacic who can actually help with that. It needs to be much tighter next season. Chelsea will not win the league next year if we go ahead and concede 50 plus Premier League goals again. So I don't know what it is. Maybe John Terry comes in and he can help out the defence. He's reunited with his best mate. There are loads of thoughts that I've got going through my mind as to how I think this could happen. But one thing I do know is it needs to bloody happen, Chelsea. Get the checkbook out. I know I'm begging for Havertz, but I'm also on my knees begging, not for Willian to put the penalty in because he's buggered off to North London, but I'm praying that we sign some defenders so that next season my heart can beat ever so slightly slower. I'm getting older now. I'm 26 years old, you know. I'm into my second quarter century, and I don't know how long I'm going to be able to handle some of the defensive things that I've witnessed with my very eyes and ears this season. So Frank, I know it's on your mind. I want to say a massive thank you to Chelsea Football Club, to Frank Lampard, for providing us with all the entertainment, the love, the passion that we've seen this season, the fuel for these videos. And yeah, I'd love to know what you guys have to say with your 6 things that you've learned from Frank Lampard this season at Chelsea. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't yet hit the like button on the video, what the bloody hell are you waiting for? Hit it now. Let's see if we can hit 8,000 likes for 6 things we learned. You could say this is like the final one of last season, but also the first one of season 2. We've got pre-season coming up soon. Lots of transfer news to talk about. Developments are going to be happening every single day. I will see you here on the GBFC channel tomorrow for a brand new video. Love you guys. Bye-bye.